Welcome into another episode of Paul Talks Ball. I'm your host, Paul Fritschner, here today from the Lindner Family Tennis Center up in Mason, right on the eve of the Cincinnati Open. And this is Pete Holtermann. We're going to get to Pete in just a minute, but make sure if you haven't already, you subscribe wherever you're watching this or listening right now. If you're on Fox 19, head on over to our digital channels at the 1831 Media Network. You subscribe on YouTube, an audio form, all of that good stuff where you can find episodes we've already done, talking Bengals, Reds, FC Cincinnati, all of that good stuff. And now here, talking some tennis with the media director here at the Cincinnati Open, Pete Holtermann. Pete, it is great to sit here and catch up with you in front of a beautiful facility behind us.
I can't wait for it to be crowded. Yeah. And there to be tennis being played. It's coming real fast. We're so excited. You know, obviously there's been a lot happening here at the Cincinnati Open, but this is truly a special stop on the tennis calendar, and it's going to be a great atmosphere. 2 weeks worth now. Yeah, absolutely. So as we sit here and talk about this, the first episode of the docu-series, the 4-part docu-series that the 1831 Media Network that we're producing, for the Cincinnati Open has already debuted, and it really tells the story of the history of this tournament, why Cincinnati has such a special tennis community, paints that picture, but then also paints the picture of why it stayed here in Cincinnati. We're going to get to all of that and more. But for people that are watching this and listening who don't know who you are, one, that's a shame, because Pete we could sit here and do a 3-hour episode about tennis with everything that's going on up in that brain of yours up there that you know and have stored over the years of all the tennis tournaments that you've worked. But tell the people watching and listening who you are and why you are here at tennis. Yeah, well, even before that, I do want to say very excited for Cincinnati's Open and to see so many different aspects of this tournament and the people behind it come to life on the screen, and excited that 1831's partnering with Cincinnati Open to do this project. I think it's a very unique thing within tennis, so I'm very excited to see the next 3 episodes. As for me, look, I'm a Midwestern guy, grew up in Milwaukee, was really a Marquette fan at first, but came down here, went to Xavier, became a Xavier guy. We like that. And got connected with the tennis world when I was a student at X. I wanted to get some experience doing media work, and cold called the tournament and said, can I help out? And they said, yeah, we love our volunteers. Please come on out. And really hit it off with the PR director at the time, Phil Smith, who's still involved here locally. And just got a ton of experience and got to know people at the tours. And eventually there was an opening at the HP Tour. So I left and went and worked for the tour for a handful of years. After that, kind of cut back on travel a little bit and got my own gig going where I was consulting with a number of different tournaments. And it's funny, when I came to Xavier, everybody said, where are you from? I said, well, I'm from Milwaukee. Once I got out on the tennis tour, where are you from? Oh, I'm from Cincinnati. And, it's a big part of the tennis calendar. It's definitely the way a lot of people know about this area is because of this tennis tournament. So it's great to now be on the staff side of it and helping to put this on and see what's happened over the years to bring it to this level that it's currently at. Yeah, and as your career's developed, you don't just work here in Cincinnati as well. You've been able to branch out all over the world. You and I were just talking about that the other day, all the different tournaments that you're able to travel to, be a part of, work for, all of that. What else do you do outside of Cincinnati? Yeah, so I'm involved with a handful of tournaments, one in Houston, Texas, one in Miami, the WTA Finals, which has been in a handful of different cities, currently in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. And then I'm also in some television production side of things, working with ESPN on their Grand Slam coverage, Australian Open, Wimbledon, US Open, and then this year was in Paris with TNT as they took on Roland Garros coverage for the first time. So see it from uniquely, I think, from the media perspective at a few events, and then from the tournament side, helping the media. So it hopefully helps me do my job when I'm hosting someone like yourself here at the Cincinnati Open, because I kind of know what you're going through, what you need with camera shots and whatnot, because I'm on that side of it a few times a year as well. Yeah, right before we go on, I'm giving Pete a spiel about and it's the same spiel I always give to a guest. All right, now look in the camera. If you want to talk to a camera, you talk to that one, talking to the microphone, and I'm going, if there's one person I've ever interviewed that doesn't need the spiel, it's the guy that always gives it to other people. Pete, I appreciate you understanding all that. I appreciate your professionalism, though, of sharing that with your guests. Absolutely. That's well done. So
to be here in Cincinnati and to see all of this and the new facility and everything that makes this tournament so special. Hopefully, if you have watched Cincinnati's Open, which is the name of that docuseries, as you said, what we're doing here to try and give everybody an understanding of what this tournament means, not just to the community, but also to the worldwide tennis community that is able to come here and be a part of this. I called this online the other day in a post the most accessible tennis tournament in the world, as far as what you are able to do when you get here, with getting up close and personal to players, with practicing, being here at center court, watching them mingle around with fans. Is that an accurate statement?
It's certainly in the conversation. You know, I can't, as many of the events I've been to, I haven't been to them all, but you know, most recently I was at Wimbledon, and there's one little path that you can maybe fit 2 people deep and stand at the back of about 3 or 4 of their practice courts, and that's it. And you know, the court 1 over at Orangi Park, which is where most of the top players are going to practice, there's no public viewing of that court at all. You know, so that accessibility here at the practice courts and the way the fans are going to walk through to get to those courts, or the players are going to walk through the fans to get to those courts, it does set this apart. It's very unique. And I think there was a lot of emphasis placed on maintaining that accessibility through this transformation that we've undergone. I mean, the campus, anybody who's been out here so far or about to come out, it's not going to be recognizable in a lot of ways just because of what's been done. But I hope that those core values of that accessibility in particular still is there.
So as a media director, how do you balance sometimes, because players, as we know, professional athletes have many different personality traits, where some players love meeting the fans, they love signing autographs, they will sign every single autograph down the entire line until the last person's gone, and some players don't like doing that at all. They're very private, they walk away. How do you balance that when they come to a tournament like this?
Yeah, I think it's trying to make it comfortable for everybody, you know, and even the ones who love doing it, sometimes there's stuff going on, you're having a bad day or you're in a hurry, you got to get somewhere, you don't have the opportunity to do it. So I think you just try to make it as comfortable for everybody so that it's, as much as anything, not awkward for anybody involved. You don't want the fans to feel like they're getting jilted. You don't want the player to feel like they're a bad guy when they do have to hustle off to do something else. You know, they're still people. They still have lives going on. They have to go to an embassy to get a visa for an upcoming tournament. They have to go pick up a girlfriend at the airport, or they have a doctor's appointment. You know, they just have things going on. So that sometimes is what plays into their ability to stop as much as they'd like to or not. So you don't want them to feel terrible if they can't do it. So you just try to make it as welcoming and as easy and convenient for everybody involved, and also for the fans. Give them those access points where they can be there. If the player is able to, let them have that opportunity to do so.
So I'm going to jump around here because you hear that beeping in the background. Maybe it's not coming through on the microphones, but it's certainly coming through here. So we're going to jump back over here to the construction and talk about the facility and the upgrade and everything that's going on right here. With the center court really was done going into last year. Now the suite level where we are right now has been renovated, but a lot of what the public will see around here was done going into last season. But the grounds are truly, I hate using the word unbelievable because it's obviously believable since you can see it. But the difference between last year and this year, with all of the new practice courts, the new playing courts, stadiums, everything about this, it is beautiful. That's the only word I keep coming back to. And it is such a tremendous upgrade for both the fans and the players.
Yeah, and look, I think that what really strikes me, and I'm with you, it is unbelievable. My job is to put into words what's happened here, and I'm speechless. So it's really hard for me right now. But I think the big takeaway is it was a massive undertaking. We doubled the acreage from 20 to 40 in the space of 11 months. It's a huge project to begin with. To do it in that compressed timeline is unbelievable. Yet, not only was it done, the attention to detail throughout is astonishing. And when you look at the florals on campus, as an example, they needed 3.3 acres of greenhouse space to grow all the plants that are now here on venue. So all those little details and little things like swapping out black asphalt for concrete just brightens everything. The way it helps when it's sunny out, it changes the complexion of things. You're seeing here behind us this court color. That's new this year. And that was, again, done intentionally. It kind of matches the color scheme of the logo, the color scheme of the seats. It pops on TV. All the things that were done with that attention to detail and thinking through, okay, what is that user experience going to be, whether it's for the player, for the fan, for a partner, for a media member, whomever it is, because we're all coming out here and consuming this slightly differently. So it has to work for everybody involved. And so getting that lens of how it's being used to then make it work optimally for everybody, you've got 2 weeks to get it right. And so you want to be able to hit the ground running with things humming along.
I buy my wife flowers a few times a year, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you that, I can really tell the difference between a carnation and, a few others. But I had the opportunity, and I don't know how much of this is going to make the documentary because you film everything and then some stuff gets left on the cutting room floor. So hopefully a decent amount of it makes it in. But I had the opportunity to go over to the west side of Cincinnati and film some of, or really all the greenhouse space or the florals and what they do there, and to talk about that just briefly, because you'll see it when you come here to the facility. Over, I believe it was, the number I was given was 45,000 pots of plants, which was 3 to 4 times as much as you had seen before. And each pot had probably 3 to 4 to 6 seeds inside the pot. So you're talking hundreds of thousands of florals around here on the grounds, and immediately when you walk through, it livens up the space. You feel so vibrant walking through the gates here.
Well, and I'm so excited for 3-5 years down the road. Some of these trees and shrubs are going to mature, and to see them all come to their full potential, it's going to be awesome. And I think it is something that you notice the second you step inside the gates.
What do you think the players are going to be most excited about when they show up on campus?
Great question. I think for a lot of them, it's going to just be the player dining experience. That's so important for them. I mean, that's the fuel that's in their race car, right? And that's going to be just next level out of this world in terms of the service, in terms of the offerings, in terms of just the dining room experience. I think that's going to be very popular. But beyond that, all those other athlete amenities, everything's just been transformed to a new level. The weight room facility, the locker room facilities, the warm-up area, the fact that there are now 31 courts on venue. There are a lot of players coming here. We're going to have over 300 players. Really hard to get a practice court sometimes when you have that many players on campus. But when you have 31 courts, you get to take care of darn near everybody. And so I think they're going to be excited that just that attention to detail to think of their experience and make it as easy for them to get around and do their job. I mean, this is their livelihood, and so making it seamless for them is very important.
It seems to me, at least from the outside, that in years past, you would hear of players having to find time at courts around Cincinnati, maybe country clubs, wherever like that, to practice in between. And of course, the players loved the access that they have, and everything was pretty convenient around up here. But now to have everything centrally located, it would seem to me, Pete, like even if you lose in the first or second round here, you might want to stay the whole week or 2 weeks before you go to New York because the facilities here are so good.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see. I've had that same hunch that was going to be the case. So it'll be very interesting to see how much they do stick around, and which is great for the fans. If your favorite player might have taken an early loss, but they might still be here practicing. And sometimes that practice session is as interesting as a match. What are they working on, and that intimacy of it as well.
Looking outside of tennis, or at least outside of the tournament specifically, the other part of this entire project has been making this site and these grounds accessible to the community of Cincinnati and Mason, Westchester, all of that. You'll have the golf clubhouse integrated now as part of the facility. I don't know exactly when that's opening, but that has a space here on the tennis grounds now. You'll have paddleball courts. You'll have college tennis matches being played around. I mean, so many different things outside of just the 2-week event, that this space will be really a community for anybody in the paddle community.
A community asset. Yeah, that's really how we're looking at it. And this project wasn't possible without the help and the support of the city of Mason and Warren County and the state of Ohio. And very appreciative of that, but also want this to now be kind of a legacy thing that is that community asset. And from, Mason High School having events here to families wanting to host rehearsal dinners or graduation parties, whatever, there's just going to be a lot of opportunity for people to come out here and enjoy this as a community asset throughout the year. And we're excited for that. It's been a full sprint to get us to host the world's best tennis players over the next 2 weeks. As we get through that, we'll start to roll out what does that public use look like, and when can people come out here and enjoy these different amenities. That same player dining facility that I was telling you about will be a restaurant that's open to the public. And some of this maybe a few months down the road before it's all up and running and open and accessible, but
Sure.
We're very excited to get that rolling out as well, because it's really going to be something that I hope the community can take full advantage of.
We came here for a shoot for the documentary. I think it was the last week of June. And I was walking around. My shoes were getting drenched in mud. You're walking around. Things aren't finished yet. And I had a phone call with somebody that works here and somebody I'm very good friends with. And I said, man, there is no way. He goes, don't worry. It'll be done. And 3 weeks later, it's even unrecognizable from where it was, here as we sit here on July 28th recording this. June 28th, say it was the day I was here. It's unbelievable what has been done here in such a short amount of time. 500 construction workers, if not more, on site every day. And to me, the dividends that will pay, like you said, in the community and everything else. And that's to tie it all back to something you said earlier as somebody who now considers yourself from Cincinnati. Before we get into the players and what's going to happen on the court, because we'll talk more about that in the second half of this show. How special is it for you as a Cincinnati native now to have this tournament stick around here for the community?
Yeah, it's fantastic. And I think the community is what's made the tournament so special. And as a Midwesterner, I love that it is so home-like for so many people around here. I know Allie Risk was here a few days ago, and she's from Pittsburgh. And this is her home tournament. Madison Keys is one of our champions. She won the Australian Open this year. She's from the Quad Cities area of Iowa. This is her home tournament, and the Midwest, it's such a, first of all, the hospitality aspect of the Midwest, but also just in a different way, the accessibility. We drive. This is what we do. I mean, why did I come to Xavier? Well, I can drive there from Milwaukee pretty easily, right? It's 7 hours. You say you drove 7 hours to someone in New England, they're like, are you nuts? But for us, oh yeah, you just pop in the car for 7 hours. It's great. I could be in Cincy for lunch. It's fantastic, And so the
it's a
population,
Midwest private jet.
Absolutely. And the Midwest around here, or the population bases rather around here in the Midwest, who can get here in that day? Detroit, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, St. Louis, Nashville, Columbus, Louisville, Lexington, Indy, and you walk around, you see a Purdue hat, you see a Red Wings sweater, you see all the different teams, because it is such a gathering place for all these communities to come and enjoy tennis. Which, by the way, what a great opportunity then for Cincinnati to show itself off and show out. And if you come in, maybe you come to the tennis during the day and then go to a Reds game at night, or you enjoy, dinner at the Banks or an Over the Rhine. You come out here and you're having Jeff Ruby's and you're having Skyline, Lucius Q, these local places, that are the lifeblood of the food opportunities out here. So there's a lot of great Cincinnati that's being shown off throughout this tournament. And the worldwide television audience, they're seeing scenics of downtown and the Ohio River. And, it's really, it does put Cincinnati on the map on a very global scale.
And to your point about being global, I'm amazed by not just counties, but countries that this tournament has access to globally from an audience perspective. It is just massive. When you come here, if you haven't been to the tournament and maybe you're considering coming here for the first time this year because you've heard so much about it in the renovations, when you get here, you'll notice, I've said it before, this is like a melting pot of tennis culture. The way that you can walk around and meet a fan that's here from one corner of the globe and then the next corner of the globe, and they all come here to Cincinnati and it becomes a tradition for them and their family because they know how accessible this tournament is.
Yeah, and it's one of the unique things about tennis is just how global it is as well. And you'll see, I mean, this year, one of the buzzy stories on the HB Tour is João Fonseca, who's a teenager from Brazil, and the Brazilian fans. And I'm old enough to remember Gustavo Kuerten playing out here, and the crowd's just going wild for him. The Brazilian fans loving it, and when you think about the 1,000 level tournaments on tour, Cincinnati's one of them. Sharing that honor with cities like Beijing, like Shanghai, Paris, Madrid, Rome. Good company to keep, right?
Yeah.
At Payroll Partners, you're not just a number. We provide a best-in-class HR and payroll experience that's built on award-winning technology and live support customer service with a dedicated payroll specialist who's just a phone call away. You shouldn't have to choose between technology and customer service. At Payroll Partners, you get both. Locally owned and operated, visit payrollpartners.net today. That's payrollpartners.net. Deer Park Roofing has been providing elite service for homes and businesses since 1996 and leads the industry in professionalism, quality, and responsiveness. So whether your needs are residential or commercial, Deer Park can handle any job and ensure it's done right. Deer Park's motto is, protect what's important. And what's important to you is important to Deer Park Roofing. Visit deerparkroofing.com today. deerparkroofing.com.
All right, so great segue there, Pete. Again, media professional knows exactly what we're doing here. We're going to segue right into talking about the tournament. So we spent the first half of the show talking about, staying here, what it's been like regionally, and now obviously it's such a beautiful facility, doubling in size, all of that. Now let's talk about what we're going to see here on the court this year. Always draws some of the top names, and just very briefly, why does it draw some of the top names? For somebody that might not know, why is this tournament such a big draw for players?
Yeah, so there are a couple things. First of all, it's a mandatory entry tournament. So if you are within the necessary ranking on the men's ATP or the women's WTA Tour, it is automatic that you are going to be entered into this tournament. And if you don't play it, you will get a 0 point on your ranking. So that's a heavy weight. It's very much so helped by the fact that it is the last big event before the U.S. Open. And it's really a good opportunity to see where your game is at. And you want to be peaking in August. There's all these different peaks and valleys throughout the tennis season. And coming into this swing, Cincinnati and New York are the two titles people want to go get. And by the way, in 2023, with Coco Gauff and Novak Djokovic, and then 2024 with Aryna Sabalenka and Jannik Sinner. They came to Cincinnati, they won the title in Cincinnati, and they went on and won the title at the U.S. Open. What they showed in Cincinnati carried on through that U.S. Open experience. So it's a very good opportunity for these players, if they're peaking at the right time, to come and have a super successful summer. And I mentioned it's a 1,000 level tournament. That's because there's 1,000 points on the line for the winner. So that's a huge chunk of points depending on where you are in the rankings. I mean, Aryna Sabalenka is running away with it right now. She's got about a 5,000 point lead, but 1,000 points can help someone bridge that gap in a big way.
Yeah.
So it's a very important tournament for the players.
And we'll see the top talent again this year. Jannik Sinner will be back here, and just the way that last year's set up. I thought it was so cool. 2 years ago, you mentioned that, and we should talk about that probably first, because we saw that highlighted in the first episode of the docuseries, and a lot of people would consider that one of the best non-major men's matches of all time, between Carlos Alcaraz and Novak Djokovic, a match that took almost 4 hours and was an epic display of tennis right here behind us. Walk us through that and what that match meant for this tournament.
It was a sensational match, and both those guys are such fierce competitors. I think time will tell on this, but was that kind of the last bit of that big three regime when you had Nadal and Federer and then Djokovic coming along? It's been, outside of that gold medal for Novak, hard for him to break through and win titles. And it was, Alcaraz was right there, that next wave of Carlos and Sinner, that we haven't seen Djokovic break through, especially at the big tournaments since that point. So was that kind of the last stand? And now it is this next generation taking over. And it was just such an engaging match. I mean, it was, you could have thrillers, and I'll be honest, the Roland Garros final this year was unbelievable that they played 5 hours, 29 minutes. It was great drama to save the match points, but it wasn't necessarily a fantastic match in terms of the shot making and the points. This final here, those two guys did was sensational. I mean, they were playing some awesome points throughout. But it's an interesting time in men's tennis because of that. The way really Alcaraz and Sinner are kind of separating from the pack. They've won all the Grand Slams the past 2 years. So, and they've got quite the rivalry going. I think for a lot of people, they were kind of relieved to see Sinner get the win at Wimbledon. So it's not getting too lopsided of Alcaraz winning all those finals, and great for Sinner to have just shaken off having match points in the Roland Garros final and not converting them. I mean, that's a tough thing to recover from. He recovered without any trouble to win that Wimbledon title. So those two guys are really elevating it. And it's crazy to think about how young they are. Because they're still 22, 23 years old. They're young. They're so young. They got so much career ahead of them. We might be seeing them for 10 years now out here playing. So that was a pretty fantastic moment. And the women's tournament that year was nothing to sneeze at. I mean, Iga Swiatek was far and away the number one at the time. Coco Gauff was always struggling when she ran into Iga in a tournament. Coco solved the Iga riddle in that semifinal and got that title. And then again, carried on through the U.S. Open with, that wind in her sails, which was awesome to see. And I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about just the way American tennis is right now on both sides, but in particular for the women. The last 4 Grand Slams have had an American in the final. And 2 of them were won, Maddie Keys in Australia and Coco in Paris. So it's a great time in the women's game, and there's just so much depth now. You don't know who's going to come through. I mean, Arena, like I said, has a huge lead, but it's not like she's winning every single week out. And there's so many players who can win. So it's really intriguing to see on the women's side. And the women's draw, I'm as excited to see as anything, because just to see what are those matchups that are going to be throughout, because the women's game just has a depth right now. And the men's game is really strong. But, Ben Shelton said after he played Sinner in Wimbledon, he's like, that guy's at a whole nother level. Like, I'm not close to that. And that's unbelievable to think about, because Ben Shelton's so good. But that, I think, is a testament to the way Sinner and Alcaraz are just kind of playing at their own level right now. Yeah,
to go from the big 3 of Fed, Nadal, Djokovic, and then to, like you said, hand that baton so seamlessly off to 2 exceptionally young players with such incredible talent that can carry the game forward, when the game of tennis was in a great place with those 3 guys, because they all had their own unique personalities. They all had very passionate fan bases. And now it's this next generation. And then boom, you have Alcaraz, you have Sinner. They're going back and forth. They're playing amazing tennis. You have the opportunity to see them here in all of those consecutive finals, over the last couple of years in those matches. But the other, on the women's side, Coco Gauff to win her first Masters 1000 title here in Cincinnati, to hear her talk passionately about what it was like to be. I thought her quote in the docuseries about, my time in Cincinnati was always pretty brief, and so it was fun to be here and experience the city longer. And she's only 19, Pete. Yeah. She was only 19 at the time, and now just think what she can do.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's obviously so much bright side for her. Again, the depth on the women's game right now, I think, is tremendous. And we've seen that with the rise of Amanda Anisimova. She won a 1,000 title in February in the Middle East. Then she comes through and gets to the Wimbledon final. She's only 23. And now she's cracked into the top 10 of the rankings. It's awesome to see. Jess Pegula was in our final last year. Or U.S. Open finals rather. She's a great American to keep an eye on. So there's so many different people who come through. It's really hard to sit there and say, oh yeah, those 2 will probably be in the final. It's an exciting time for women's tennis for sure.
You talked a lot here about American tennis. What is the state of tennis like in the United States right now?
Yeah, it's really good. I mean, first of all, on the participation side, there are more people playing it than ever before. And I think if you go kind of cast a broader net and just talk about racket sports, and you mentioned before, we're going to be a racket sports facility. We're going to have pickleball. We're going to have padel. Obviously, we have a lot of tennis. The racket sports in general exploding. Pickleball is hugely popular for people to go out and play. Tennis is, as I said, record number of participation. So the people playing, picking up a racket and getting out there is a bigger population that's ever been. As far as the professional game, yeah, it's in a very, very good place. You've got, I believe right now, 4 American women in the top 10 and 3 men in the top 10, another just outside on each tour. So it's in a really good place. We talked about Ben Shelton, but Tommy Paul's had a great year. Francis Tiafoe. Taylor Fritz is the number 1 American at number 4 in the world. So, and when you look even deeper down the seeds, Alex Mickelson, who's just 20 years old, he's seated here. Brandon Nakashima is seated here. On the women's side, McCartney Kessler's had a breakout year. She's going to be seated here. So there's a lot of these American players in the mix, to say nothing of Peyton Stearns, who's from Cincinnati, who has had a really good year, got seated at a slam for the first time, and hopefully is going to be physically ready to go here. And then Katie McNally, who's coming back from a pretty significant elbow surgery and has just won the last 2 tournaments she's played. One in Newport, Rhode Island, and one in Evansville, Indiana in the last 3 weeks. So she's clearly on the mend from her injury, and really excited to see what she can do here at the Cincinnati Open.
And then one name that everybody watching this is certainly familiar with, and a wild card entry here this year, Venus Williams.
Yeah,
will make an appearance here this year.
Yeah, she hadn't won a match on tour since here in 2023, and to go to Washington D.C. at the age of 45 and get a win is awesome. A great story. The oldest player to get a win on the women's tour in 20 plus years since Martina Navratilova. Very incredible. Excited to see her. A lot of buzz about her coming here. Taylor Townsend's another wild card who we're going to welcome here, who's another great American story. So yeah, there is no shortage of American talent. And I think what's great to see about them is there's so many different backstories to all the players, but in particular these Americans. It's not like they're all from South Florida.
Yeah.
You got a bunch from California, but you do have the Midwestern players. I mentioned Maddie Keys being from Iowa, and you've got a lot of different ways and paths that these people took to get to the game. I think as many college players as we've had in decades out here playing. Peyton's a good example. Peyton played at the University of Texas, won the NCAA singles title, won a pair of team titles with the Longhorns. Great to see her having success. Ben Shelton, he played at the University of Florida. So it's cool to see everybody have their kind of unique journey to get here. They're not all just going to some academy in the same place, and that's how they're all getting groomed to come into the game. They're all finding their own path, and that's part of the whole age thing too, is like some are maturing at totally different times. So it's exciting to see just the different ways people are making their way into it.
The local scene here in Cincinnati, talk about Peyton Stearns, Katie McNally, certainly a lot of fans will come here and enjoy having a local connection to the tennis tournament, the scene, the landscape, all of that. McNally and Stearns, the one thing I always respect and appreciate about them in their relation to Cincinnati is how much they love being from Cincinnati and promote it. It's got to be fun for you to kind of work with them and see that when they want to come back here. We saw Peyton Stearns was on campus not too long ago and got a tour of everything, post that on Instagram. And it's just fun to see, hey, I'm from here, I'm going to play here, and I love being here.
And I think it was in Miami this year when I saw Katie and I said, hey, welcome back to the tour. By the way, have you tried the Skyline flavored graters yet? And she was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they did that. Totally remiss, by the way, to not add JJ Wolf to the conversation. JJ's out with an injury. Yep. We haven't seen him on tour since February, unfortunately, but he's working hard to get back. Obviously, a great Cincinnati sports family there with the Wolves, but JJ too, just like those girls, he loves this tournament, loves being from Cincinnati. And I think it's a tribute to this community that we have 3 players on the pro tours. That's not something that a lot of cities can say. And not only can we be proud of them, they're very proud of their hometown as well.
To get more specific here on this year's tournament and what fans can expect, I know the draw is ever changing, but just walk us through some of the highlights, what you can expect. The players that will be here are confirmed to be here. And now, again, we're recording this on July 28th, so maybe players drop out, maybe players get at whatever here in the next week. But just give us a little preview of what people can expect.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, look, everybody's going to come in here and just check out the grounds. The campus transformation is unbelievable, as you said, and I think that's going to be what everybody's first checking out. And I don't blame them, as they should. Please do come out and check out this great facility. In terms of on the court, yeah, we're expecting most of those top players. There are a few who have some injuries. We saw Grigor Dimitrov with a very unfortunate injury in Wimbledon. A few other players. Zhang Qinwen has had an elbow surgery, so she's not going to be able to be here. So yes, there are a few players who won't be able to join us, but we're really excited that we're having most of the top players come. As I said, Sinner and Alcaraz have kind of separated, but who can challenge them? And it's best 2 out of 3. Depending on the day, you could get some tricky conditions. We've all been here to see when suddenly a pressure system comes through and it cools off. Okay, well, then who does that give the advantage to? So you got to compete with a lot of different things here. So I think on the men's side, it's going to be who can challenge those two. And there are opportunities here. We saw Francis Tiafoe get through last year to the final. We've seen other players have the opportunity to get through and make some noise here. So, and I think you'll see a lot of home crowd support for those American players. So that could give one of them the chance to make a run. Obviously, Tommy Paul has gotten deep into tournaments this season. Ben Shelton has. So these are guys who aren't averse to that type of success. So maybe they can put together a run here. And then, as I said, on the women's side, I expect everybody to be here really outside of Zhang. And I know Paula Bados has been injured for a while now as well. But outside of that, everybody in the top 20, we're expecting them to be here. But you don't have to be in the top 20 to get into that final weekend here. I think there's a lot of different players who have a chance to make some noise. Again, that American contingent is fabulous, but there's no shortage of players. Mira Andreeva, who's still a teenager, she's won 2 of these 1,000 events this season. Sabalenka has played as well as anybody this year, except for a couple of finals where she's really struggled. Very hard to ever count her out, though. Iga Swiatek just won Wimbledon. It was her first title in over a year. What kind of boost does that give her? What kind of confidence does she carry into this important summer swing? So there's a ton of intriguing storylines on the women's side, and I think it's really wide open.
Yeah, this hard court season translating into the U.S. Open, it is, to go back to what you talked about earlier with the champions here at Cincinnati translating into a U.S. Open champion. Why do you think that is? Is it simply just because they have this experience, they play in a 2-week tournament? And yeah, it does help that if you look individually, they are the best players in the world that have won this. But at the same time, do you think there's something that stands out about this tournament that you feel like translates right away to New York?
I think as much as anything, you coming in feeling pretty good. If you get out of here and you don't have any niggling injuries or anything, you're going to be feeling supremely confident. This is a very hard title to win. When you talk about that strength of field and you talk about the players that are in it, if you've gotten through your 6 or 7 matches here to win this title, you got to be feeling really good about where you're at. And you look back to 2022, Caroline Garcia came through qualifying and won the title here. That was followed by a semifinal in New York. I think you just get into feeling so comfortable on the court, and we intentionally are trying to match the court speed of the U.S. Open. So you're kind of feeling very comfortable on the surface as well. And the conditions, the weather is very similar here as it is in New York. By the end of the U.S. Open, it's starting to feel like fall a little bit, but you get through those early rounds in New York, you're playing in the heat of summer. And so I think all those factors just give players a bit of a rhythm, and you know how any athlete, when they start to get into a zone, look out. And if you're going to have to almost be zoning out to win here because it's that tough of a field. So you're going to feel real good, real confident. And then there's the week to kind of catch your breath, recharge, but keep that momentum going forward.
Talking to Pete Holtermann here, media director at the Cincinnati Open. And Pete, you're as I understand it, former podcaster?
There was a
current podcaster.
Yeah, current.
Well, literally current.
Current,
yeah.
There was a COVID side hustle, yes, where I did a little bit of podcasting. So nowhere near as proficient as you in the podcast space.
Sure. But I always enjoy hearing stories like that because it gives you an opportunity to hear stories, talk to people, and you talk about the work that you were putting in for that. It was credentials only, was the name of it?
Credentials only. People who are at these events, you come to a tennis tournament like this, we're going to have 6,000 people wearing credentials. Well, what the heck are they all doing? And so that was my goal, was to just talk to some of the people who are behind the scenes at different sporting events. And I think my greatest pull, if I can humble brag for a second, my greatest pull was the pronouncer from the Scripps National Spelling Bee.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that's a very niche gig, but yeah, I mean, whether you're in ticketing or marketing or sponsorship sales, or I talked to an athletic trainer, I talked to a basketball coach, just to that cross section. There's so many different things and so many people who want to get into sports. Like we talked about with the players, what was their story to get into playing at the highest level? What's the backstory of the people behind the scenes who make all these events possible? So that was the goal. And I was trying to make sure it was an educational piece where, how did you get into this? And how did you turn that passion? Because you kind of have to be passionate to do this, because it does take a lot. How did you turn that passion into a career?
6,000 credentials worn at a tournament like this. I believe the volunteer number is close to 2,000, somewhere between 1,600, 2,000, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
So you're talking just right there, around 8,000 people that just make this tournament run, on top of everybody else that might be working, whatever. I am fascinated by the logistics of welcoming 250 to 300,000 people in for a 2-week tournament. And again, if you're unaware and you're just catching up on the tennis scene in Cincinnati for this tournament this year, the tournament has doubled in size. The campus has doubled in size, but the tournament has also doubled in size on both sides, the men's and the women's. What a massive, massive undertaking.
Well, and you talk about the logistics of it. So on the singles side, we used to have 56 players in each singles field. We've expanded that to 96. Okay, that's 40 more people. But that means also 40 more coaches, 40 more physiotherapists. Most of these players are going to have a chiropractor or a nutritionist or a mental health coach. They're all traveling with the player plus 3 is what we call it. So player plus 3 times 40, that's 160 people per field. So that's almost 400 people who overnight have been added to the population we're going to be welcoming here. So that's a lot of logistics that go into that. And that's, again, where the attention to detail on making sure the kitchen is large enough, making sure the gym is large enough, the locker rooms are large enough, there's lounge space. Talking about the kitchen, it's wild now for our chefs team, because you've got these athletes who are putting fuel into their body. They want their rice, they want their pasta, they want their salmon, they want their chicken. But there's a bunch of them who are traveling with their kids, and they want like mac and cheese and chicken nuggets, you know? So you got to really be servicing so many different types of people. And that's what we're really trying to do, is understand what our audiences need and give them that best-in-class service across the board. So whether you're coming and you've got a grandstand ticket and you're going to be over there with your family today, but you're going to want to make sure you get the ice cream and you want to, you know, get the jumbo tennis ball to get the autographs, or if you're coming in one of the hospitality suites like we're sitting in right now, or if you're a player, if you're a media member who's traveled here from France or Japan to cover the tournament, we want to make sure that every single person coming through the gates is going to have a wonderful experience.
How can people buy tickets, attend the event? There are sessions each day. There are multiple sessions. If you buy a ticket, you get access to center court, but you can also roam the grounds. Just real quick, explain the logistics of how somebody might want to attend this tournament.
Yeah, so first of all, CincinnatiOpen.com is where to go for your tickets, for all the information. I think if you've never been to a tennis tournament before, the thing to understand is exactly what you were just saying, is that you roam around. You're not buying your ticket and you're not sitting in that seat for the 2 or 3 hours of the match and then going home. You're here for 7-8 hours. And that's why we have 13 different restaurants out in our food village. We've got marketplaces around the grounds. We've got a huge Cincinnati Open shop with all kinds of merchandise. We've got live bands playing in 2 different areas of the facility. We've got player autograph sessions. There's the practice courts you can go watch. There's so much you can do. You're going to be nomadic throughout the day. You're going to wander around the campus and see different things. As you said, there are day and night sessions, so you can come out here after work if you want, and you're going to get 2 matches on this court or 2 matches over in Grandstand with that night session ticket. If you're here through the day, you can get here at 11 a.m. for first ball, and you could bounce around throughout that day, and you could probably dip in and out of 20 different matches throughout the course of the day and see a bunch of different players. You can see lefties, you can see a serve and volleyer, you can watch some doubles, you can find a little bit of everything to spend your time out here.
What makes us human? Humanity is found in the actions that redefine care. Actions that we at TriHealth take every day. By seeing those who feel invisible, hearing needs that have been ignored. TriHealth is healing the body and the human spirit, so all can know and live a better life.
When we took a site tour the other day, you were there, you were a part of being around and seeing so much of the change in the ground. Now you're working here, but at the same time, learning some of the intricacies of the details of little things. And you had a quote at one point where you were just kind of speaking to whoever was listening, and you said, it's almost overwhelming the little details that you might not even recognize were put into this place. Like, oh, they chose this type of pottery for this because it matched this, or they matched this color to this because of this reason, or whatever it might be that you don't even think about. But every single point of this entire facility was thoroughly planned and executed to a point to where you see it now behind us. I can't say enough about this facility, Pete, and I'm so excited for people to see it this year.
And real quick, I'll tell you, as we end the tournament with the trophy lift. I will tell a trophy story here. When the tournament was founded in 1899, makes this the second oldest tournament in the United States. When it was founded in 1899, they didn't have trophies. And so the men's winner that year got a set of beer steins made from Rookwood pottery.
Really?
And in 2010, when we went to have a new trophy, we went back to Rookwood pottery and create the trophy from that pottery studio here in Cincinnati. So that ties into our history. That same potter is where we got the clay that is used for some of the tiles right here in this suite. So that's just tying it all together. And like you said, that intention, that looking at the details and symmetry and tying it all together, it's next level. It really is.
That's what I mean. You're using that pottery here in the suite. And if you hadn't told me that, I would have never known. And then how many thousands of other little details around here might you not realize or pick up?
Yeah, and it's when you look at it on the scale through the construction project and all the things they had to do, you'll see there's so many video screens right now. It's static on this Kelly green behind us, but they'll be vibrant throughout the tournament. They're all over the grounds. There's some right below us here. There's all kinds of video screens. I think it's like 45 million pixels. But to power all that, they buried 90 miles of copper wiring throughout the grounds to connect all of this and make it all work throughout the tournament. It's incredible. It's truly an astonishing project. The scale of it's hard to really comprehend. To have done it in 11 months is fantastic. And I don't think there's enough credit to Jansen Dell and the entire team that has worked to put it together.
Well, Pete Holtermann, I really appreciate you taking some time to sit down here today, talk about the Cincinnati Open, give people an idea of what they can expect, both from the facilities and the play on the court. Is there anything maybe that I haven't asked you that people should know, or that I'll leave the door open here to end the show?
Well, look, you kindly gave me the avenue to talk about CincinnatiOpen.com, and we talked a little bit about if you haven't been here before. There is actually on CincinnatiOpen.com something I've never seen before in tennis, a fan personality quiz. And you go on, and it's, I think, 8 yes, no, or this or that type questions. And would you rather watch the football game on TV or go to the stadium? And it will identify, based on that, a couple recommended sessions for you to attend and a couple types of players to cheer for. We've actually had some players take it. So if you decide that you're a socialite, it'll tell you, okay, well, these players are also socialites. So now you might have somebody you can cheer for when you come out here. So it's a really cool way to just kind of get some insights into what it is we do. Because tennis is unique. Like I said, it's a unique viewership experience. Come out here for 7-8 hours. It'll give you a little insight on how best to consume it, what days to come out, what sessions to look at, and then what to do when you're on site.
No stone left unturned, Pete.
We're trying hard here. We're trying real hard.
I appreciate you taking some time to sit down today.
Thank you so much. Thanks to you guys for everything you're doing with Cincinnati's Open. I think it's a tremendous project. Like I said, I'm not familiar with anything else like that on the tennis circuit. And I think it's going to be a great insight into a lot of that behind the scenes world that makes this possible to then have 12,000 screaming fans here when we crown our champion in a couple weeks.
That is Pete Holtermann, media director here at the Cincinnati Open. As we were talking about, Cincinnati's Open, that's the title of the docu-series that we are running, the production team here at 1831 Media. It will be posted out throughout the Cincinnati Open social media channels. It'll be available on YouTube. It'll also be available on Fox 19, August 3rd, 10th, 17th, and 24th. Those are the debut dates for each part of the show. Again, 4 parts to the show. And the first part really covers the history of the tournament, why it stayed here in Cincinnati after the purchase by BMOC, all of those little details. Second part's really getting into the story of this year's tournament, the players arriving, what it's like, setting the stage for what you'll see in episodes 3 and 4, which are the first week and then the second week of this year's tournament. All of that and more. We are embedded over the next few weeks, day in and day out. There is a camera on just about everything happening here on the court, but also off the court. And I think that's what I'm most excited for, as we wrap up this show, is to see, you can see what happens on the court, but everybody sees that. Everybody that's here or watching globally is seeing what happens on the court. What are they doing right down in the tunnel, in the LED tunnel before they walk out? Are they going and playing the Grizzly right across the street? Are they playing golf? Some players will go down to a Reds game. They'll go to FC Cincinnati. They get together outside. They might go to dinner. All of those things that we will have for you as part of the documentary.
Looking forward to watching it.
Should be great. Can't wait to have all of you watching it as well. That's Pete Holtermann. I'm Paul Fritschner. This has been another episode of Paul Talks Ball. Thank you so much to everybody for watching. Hope to see you out here at the tournament. If you do, say hi to Peter I. We don't bite. We're good Xavier guys.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate you coming out.
Yep. Make sure you subscribe wherever you're watching. Tune in, and we'll talk to you next time on Paul Talks Ball.